My dear brothers and sisters, there are moments in life when the heart whispers, I cannot take any more. Moments when you have prayed until your tears dried, waited until hope felt fragile, and endured silently while the world moved on. Yet Allah, in His infinite wisdom, watches every step, every tear, every dua made in the dark. The Quran reminds us, indeed, with hardship comes ease. Not once but twice, Allah repeats it, because ease is not a possibility, it is a promise. When Allah places a servant in a long test, it is never to break them, it is to prepare them. Think of gold placed into fire, not to destroy it, but to purify it. You were not delayed because Allah forgot you. You were delayed because Allah was perfecting you. Every unanswered prayer was actually being answered in a form your heart was not yet ready to receive. Real life shows us this truth clearly. A mother who waits years for a child, a man who struggles honestly yet sees no immediate success, a believer who remains kind despite being hurt repeatedly. These are not signs of failure, these are signs of qualification. Allah tests those He loves, not to see if they will fall, but to show how high they can rise. The Quran asks a powerful question. Do people think they will be left to say, we believe, and they will not be tested? Faith without trials is unproven, but faith that survives storms becomes unshakable. When you continued to pray even when your heart felt heavy, when you chose patience over anger, when you trusted Allah while everything seemed uncertain, those were your final answers on the test. And now Allah sends signs, subtle at first, a calm in the heart, a door opening unexpectedly, a burden lifting without explanation. Sometimes the sign is not what appears, but what disappears. Fear, anxiety, constant sadness. Allah's timing is precise. He does not arrive early, and He is never late. He arrives exactly when your soul is ready. This is where urgency meets surrender. The test ending does not mean complacency, it means readiness. Gratitude becomes essential. Humility becomes protection. Because blessings require a heart that remembers where it came from. Allah warns us in the Quran that when ease comes after hardship, it is a moment of choice. Will you forget or will you draw closer? Trust Allah completely now more than ever. Just as He carried you through nights you thought would never end, He will guide you through days you never imagined. Prepare your heart, not with arrogance, but with gratitude, not with fear, but with tawakkul. Because the one who tested you is the same one who is about to reward you. You did not survive by accident. You were shaped by divine design. And if Allah brought you this far, it was never to abandon you at the finish line. The test refined you, the patience elevated you, and the reward by Allah's mercy is already on its way. There is a deep wisdom behind why Allah allows some tests to last longer than we expect. Often the heart assumes that relief should come quickly, that once we pray sincerely and try our best, ease should immediately follow. But Allah is Al-Hakim, the most wise, and His wisdom operates beyond what the eyes can see. A prolonged test is not a sign of rejection, it is often a sign of selection. Allah chooses certain servants to walk a longer road, because that road shapes them into someone capable of carrying what is coming next. In the Quran, Allah reminds us that He tests people with fear, hunger, loss and hardship, but He gives glad tidings to those who remain patient. Patience here is not passive waiting, it is active trust. It is waking up every day choosing obedience even when the heart feels tired. Long tests teach the soul consistency. Anyone can be grateful for a week, strong for a month, hopeful for a season, but when the test stretches into years, only sincerity remains. Allah allows the test to continue until the believer no longer relies on their own strength, plans, or timelines, and instead leans fully on Him. Sometimes the delay exists because what you are asking for is heavy. A blessing received too early can break a person, but the same blessing received after growth can elevate them. Think of a child asking for responsibilities meant for an adult. The delay is not punishment, it is protection. Allah knows that if He gives you what you want before your character is ready, it could distance you from Him instead of drawing you closer. So He refines your patience, softens your ego, and strengthens your reliance through time. Prolonged tests also cleanse the heart. With time, false attachments fall away. You stop depending on people who cannot help you, on systems that fail you, on expectations that disappoint you. You learn that only Allah remains constant. Many people turn to Allah in moments of crisis, but those who stay with Him during long hardship develop a bond that cannot be shaken by ease or difficulty. The test becomes a bridge to intimacy with Allah, where dua feels personal, where salah becomes a refuge rather than a routine. Real life reflects this clearly. The person who struggles honestly for years develops humility. The one who waits for relief learns empathy for others in pain. The one who remains patient under pressure gains a quiet strength that cannot be taught in comfort. Allah allows the test to continue because something within you is still forming. Perhaps it is humility. Perhaps it is gratitude. Perhaps it is sincerity in worship. The delay is not empty time. It is purposeful preparation. Allah also extends tests to separate truth from illusion. When everything is easy, faith can feel effortless. But when things are hard, faith becomes real. Who still prays when there is no visible answer? Who still obeys when obedience feels heavy? Who still trusts when logic says otherwise? These moments reveal who you truly are to yourself, even though Allah already knows. The test teaches you about your own heart, your weaknesses, your hidden strengths, your ability to endure more than you ever imagined. A long test humbles the believer and removes entitlement. You stop asking why me, and begin asking what is Allah teaching me. That shift itself is growth. Allah does not rush the process because rushing would rob you of the lessons embedded in the waiting. Every extra moment is shaping your response, deepening your reliance, and aligning your heart with divine wisdom, until you reach a point where even if the answer does not come immediately, your heart remains steady, your faith remains intact, and your trust no longer depends on outcomes, but on knowing that Allah never burdens a soul beyond what it can bear, and that every delay carries mercy that will eventually make sense. When you look back and realize that the longest test was actually the greatest preparation for what your heart is about to receive, when a test begins to end, Allah rarely announces it with noise. There is no sudden trumpet, no dramatic sign in the sky. Instead, the signs are subtle, gentle, and deeply personal, because Allah speaks to each heart in the language it understands best. One of the first signs is an inner calm that arrives without explanation. The situation may not have fully changed yet, but the heart feels lighter. The constant anxiety softens. The mind stops racing through worst-case scenarios. This calm is not coincidence. It is sakina, a tranquility Allah places in the hearts of those who have endured sincerely. The Qur'an reminds us that Allah sends down tranquility into the hearts of the believers so that they may increase in faith. This calm often comes before external change, not after it. It is Allah preparing the heart to receive what is coming next. Just as the ground must soften before rain can nourish it, the heart must settle before blessings can take root. When you notice that your reactions are no longer as sharp, that patience feels more natural, that anger does not control you the way it once did, it is a sign that the test has already done its work. Another sign is clarity. During the peak of hardship, everything feels confusing. Decisions feel heavy, options feel limited, and the future feels foggy. But as the test nears its end, clarity begins to appear. You may suddenly understand why certain doors closed, or why certain people had to leave. What once felt like loss begins to feel like protection. Allah allows understanding to dawn when the heart is strong enough to accept it without resentment. This clarity is not always about the full picture. Sometimes it is simply the removal of doubt from the heart. Changes in dua are also a sign. At the beginning of a trial, dua often comes from desperation and pain. Over time it transforms into sincerity and surrender. You stop demanding specific outcomes and begin asking Allah for what is best, even if it looks different from what you imagined. When your dua shifts from "give me this" to "choose for me," it means the test has softened the heart and aligned it with divine wisdom. Allah loves this state because it reflects true servitude. Another sign is detachment. What once felt essential no longer controls your emotions. People's opinions lose their power over your heart. Outcomes no longer define your worth. You still care, but you are no longer consumed. This does not mean you have become cold. It means you have become anchored. Allah removes unhealthy attachments before He brings ease, so that blessings do not become idols. Detachment is freedom, and freedom is necessary to carry blessings with gratitude instead of fear. Sometimes the sign is that the struggle itself becomes easier to carry. The hardship may still exist, but it no longer crushes you. You find yourself smiling again, laughing without guilt, functioning without forcing yourself. This resilience is not something you created on your own. It is a gift from Allah, a sign that He has strengthened your inner foundation. When Allah increases your capacity before changing your circumstances, it means change is near. Finally, signs appear in the form of openings, small opportunities, unexpected help, a conversation that shifts everything, a door that opens where there was once only a wall. These openings are rarely dramatic at first, but they are intentional. Allah does not overwhelm the heart after hardship. He introduces ease gently, allowing trust to rebuild naturally. The one who remains attentive recognizes these signs, not with arrogance, but with humility, understanding that Allah's help often arrives quietly, perfectly timed, and precisely tailored to the heart that endured patiently, trusted sincerely, and waited long enough to see how divine mercy unfolds step by step before the full relief becomes visible. Pain has a way of exposing what comfort never reveals. When life is smooth, the soul often remains unexamined, but when hardship arrives, every layer of the heart is tested. Allah allows pain not to humiliate the believer, but to elevate them. In the Qur'an, Allah reminds us that He raises people in ranks through what they endure. Sincerity is born in these moments, because when all external support fades, the heart learns to turn toward Allah alone. What begins as struggle slowly becomes purification. Patience in Islam is not silence without feeling. It is the ability to feel deeply while still choosing obedience. It is crying in sujood instead of complaining to creation. It is holding the tongue when anger feels justified. It is continuing to pray even when joy feels distant. Through this kind of patience, pain transforms from something that weakens the believer into something that strengthens them. Every moment of restraint, every act of obedience under pressure, is recorded by Allah as elevation. Sincerity grows when expectations fall away. In the early stages of hardship, the heart often worships with conditions. Relief becomes the goal, not closeness to Allah. But as the test continues, something shifts. The believer begins to worship not just to escape pain, but because Allah is worthy of worship in every state. This is a rare and precious level of faith. When the heart reaches this point, the test has already succeeded. The believer is no longer defined by what they receive, but by who they become in the process. Allah uses pain to remove arrogance in ways comfort never can. Success can inflate the ego, but hardship humbles it. The one who suffers learns how fragile they truly are, how dependent they are on Allah for even the smallest ease. This humility is not weakness, it is clarity. A humble heart is lighter, more receptive, more open to guidance. Allah loves humility because it allows the servant to grow without resistance. Real-life examples reflect this transformation clearly. The person who endures betrayal becomes more compassionate. The one who experiences loss develops deeper empathy. The one who struggles financially learns gratitude for what others overlook. Pain stretches the heart, expanding its capacity to understand, forgive and connect. These qualities are not accidental byproducts. They are the purpose behind the test. Allah is shaping a heart that can carry both ease and responsibility. Patience also builds spiritual strength. Just as muscles grow under resistance, faith grows under pressure. Each time a believer chooses trust over panic, hope over despair, and obedience over rebellion, their spiritual foundation becomes stronger. This strength is internal and enduring. It remains even when circumstances change. When Allah eventually removes the hardship, the believer does not return to who they were before. They emerge refined, anchored, and aware. Sincerity in hardship also protects the believer during ease. Those who suffered sincerely do not take blessings lightly. They recognize ease as mercy, not entitlement. They remember the nights of dua, the weight of uncertainty, the lessons learned in silence. This memory guards the heart against arrogance. When success arrives, Allah knows who will forget Him in ease, and who will remember Him more. And prolonged trials reveal that truth. Through patience and sincerity, pain becomes a ladder rather than a pit. Each rung represents a moment of restraint, a prayer whispered through tears, a choice to trust Allah despite not understanding His plan. Allah does not waste these moments. He converts them into rank, wisdom and nearness. When the believer looks back, they may realize that the hardship did not just pass. It transformed them into someone stronger, softer, and closer to Allah. Someone whose heart has been reshaped by endurance, whose faith has been deepened by sincerity, and whose pain has been turned into a source of elevation rather than loss. There comes a point in every long trial when exhaustion reaches the heart before it reaches the body. The believer may still be standing, still praying, still functioning, but inside there is a quiet weariness that words cannot fully express. It is in this space that trusting Allah's timing becomes the greatest act of faith. The Quran reminds us that Allah does not hasten things according to human impatience, because what appears delayed is often being arranged with perfect precision. Trusting divine timing means believing that Allah sees not only where you are, but where you are going. When the heart feels tired, it naturally wants answers. It asks why relief has not come, why the road feels longer than expected, why others seem to move forward while it remains still. Allah does not rebuke the tired heart for these questions, but He teaches it to surrender. Surrender is not giving up. It is placing the weight down after carrying it for too long. It is recognizing that control was never in human hands to begin with. When a believer releases the illusion of control, the heart finds space to breathe again. Allah's timing often conflicts with human logic. The mind wants immediate results, visible progress, clear signs, but Allah works in unseen layers. While the believer feels stagnant, Allah may be rearranging people, removing obstacles, and protecting the heart from outcomes that would have caused harm if they came too soon. What feels like delay may actually be mercy unfolding quietly behind the scenes. Trust grows when the believer accepts that not seeing the plan does not mean there is no plan. There is a unique reward in trusting Allah while exhausted. Anyone can trust when things are easy, but trusting when the heart feels empty is a higher level of faith. Continuing to pray without enthusiasm, continuing to obey without emotional comfort, continuing to hope without visible change. These actions carry immense weight with Allah. The Prophet saw that deeds done consistently, even when small, are beloved to Allah. When worship continues despite fatigue, it reflects sincerity rather than emotion. Real life teaches this lesson repeatedly. A person who waits years for relief learns that timing shapes character as much as outcomes. If ease came at the first moment of pain, patience would never grow. If answers arrived instantly, trust would remain shallow. Allah allows the waiting to stretch so that reliance deepens. Over time, the believer realizes that the waiting itself was doing something to the heart, stripping it of arrogance, expectation, and entitlement. Trusting Allah's timing also requires letting go of comparisons. Looking at others who seem to receive ease quickly can intensify exhaustion. But Allah reminds us that every soul has its own journey, its own measure, its own tests. What another person carries may be lighter or heavier in ways unseen. Comparing timelines only blinds the heart to its own growth. When the believer stops measuring their progress against others, they begin to notice how far Allah has already brought them. As exhaustion settles in, Allah often invites the believer into a deeper level of surrender. This surrender is quiet. It is no longer loud dua demanding change, but soft dua, asking for strength to endure with dignity. It is accepting that Allah's wisdom outweighs personal understanding. In this surrender, the heart finds a strange peace. The urgency softens, not because hope has died, but because trust has matured. Allah does not test a tired heart without also supporting it. Every breath you take while carrying hardship is already sustained by Him. Every moment you remain patient is proof that Allah is giving you the strength to continue. Trusting Allah's timing in exhaustion means believing that the one who carried you through the hardest nights will not abandon you in the final stretch. That relief is not denied but timed. That what is written for you will arrive at the moment it will bring the greatest benefit, the deepest gratitude, and the strongest connection to Allah, even if that moment comes after every ounce of strength has been tested and transformed into reliance that no longer wavers. Even when answers remain unseen, when hardship begins to lift, the believer enters one of the most delicate phases of the journey. Preparing the soul for what comes next is just as important as surviving what came before. Allah does not only test His servants with difficulty, He also tests them with ease. The Quran reminds us that when Allah replaces fear with security and hardship with comfort, it is a moment that reveals whether the heart has learned or merely endured. Preparation means readiness of character, not just readiness of circumstances. One of the first preparations is gratitude that lives beyond words. True gratitude is not only saying Alhamdulillah when relief arrives, but remembering Allah consistently after relief settles. Many hearts call upon Allah intensely during hardship, but when blessings come, distractions multiply. Preparing for blessings means guarding the habits formed during difficulty, the prayers made at night, the humility felt in need, the awareness of dependence on Allah. These practices
to protect the heart from forgetting the one who answered when no one else could. Allah also prepares the believer by refining intentions. Blessings can easily become sources of pride if the heart forgets the journey. Preparing the soul means reminding oneself that what is coming is not earned solely through effort, but gifted through mercy. This awareness keeps the heart soft. When success arrives, the believer sees it as responsibility, not superiority. Allah gives more to those who understand that blessings are trusts, not trophies. Another preparation is emotional maturity. Hardship often leaves scars. Without healing, those scars can affect how a person carries blessings. Preparing the soul includes forgiving where possible, releasing resentment and letting go of bitterness. Carrying unresolved pain into ease can distort gratitude into fear of loss. Allah wants the believer to enjoy His gifts without constantly anticipating their removal. A healed heart is better equipped to receive abundance with balance and calm. Real life demonstrates how sudden ease can overwhelm an unprepared heart. People who rise too quickly without inner grounding often lose themselves. Allah protects the believer by shaping their inner world first. Through patience and waiting, the soul learns discipline, restraint, and these qualities act as anchors when blessings arrive. Without them, ease can become more destructive than hardship. Preparation also involves readiness to give. One of the signs that Allah is about to increase someone is the expansion of their generosity. Those who suffered understand pain deeply, and this awareness fuels compassion. Preparing for blessings means intending to use them in ways that please Allah, to support others, to uplift, to heal, to serve. Allah loves when ease in one servant becomes relief for another. Trust remains essential even after the test ends. Preparing the soul means not clinging to blessings in fear, but holding them with open hands. The believer understands that Allah gives and withholds according to wisdom, not randomness. This understanding removes anxiety from abundance. When the heart trusts Allah fully, it enjoys what is given without being enslaved by it. Allah often sends subtle reminders during this phase, small moments of reflection, sudden memories of past hardship, quiet nudges toward humility. These are not meant to reopen wounds, but to anchor gratitude. Preparing the soul means listening to these reminders, allowing them to deepen awareness rather than fear. As the believer stands at the edge of a new chapter, preparation becomes an act of worship. It is choosing humility before success, remembrance before distraction, generosity before attachment. Allah does not bring someone through difficulty only to abandon them in ease. The one who tested the heart also teaches it how to carry what comes next. When the soul is prepared, blessings do not distance it from Allah, they draw it closer, turning relief into responsibility, comfort into consciousness, and answered prayers into a renewed commitment to walk gently, gratefully, and faithfully under Allah's guidance. Aware that every gift carries purpose, every increase carries accountability, and every new beginning is another opportunity to remain surrendered to the one who planned every step long before the test began.